What's happening, people? What's good? Welcome to another edition of Politricked, only on the Got What You Need excuse me, on the Got What You Need network. My bad. Make sure you check out the other great broadcasts on this network: Ian Friends, Life and Love, the Black Male Podcast, as well as the Encourage and Inspire podcast. Um, it's gonna be one of the last podcasts you hear before the election. Um, so we definitely gonna speak on that. I want to touch on, and I know it's not really politics, but a lot of the, I guess, the extracurricular stuff kind of gets thrown in there as well. So we definitely gonna talk about yay a little bit, alright. Um, and we just gonna touch on a few other, I guess, relevant topics to progressives, but more importantly, my black folks. But let's get it started, man. We have a very important election coming up Tuesday, November 8th. And I know a lot of people listening are from different parts of the country. So we're not talking about getting people to vote for a particular candidate. It's not a presidential election year. So um, what we're really talking about is control of Congress. I see a lot of people complain about gas prices, complain about food, jobs, housing, and so on and so on and so forth. And in some cases, I have, similar concerns and complaints. I guess where, like, I draw the line is, I guess, where I point the blame because I know why, when gas prices go up, why they do. Because of greedy oil executives and not anything that any politician, whether on the right or the left, does. Um, and a lot of times, people look at how much they pay for unleaded when it's really the price of diesel that indicates rise in consumer goods because now the truck drivers are charging more because they're paying more. But every time we turn around, it's, you know, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they're in charge. Why are they not doing anything? And then when people like me point out the obstruction, it's all whatever. And I just feel like we're in such a dangerous time because you have half of the people in the country running basically saying that Joe Biden lost the 2020 election. And we know that that's not true. We also have half of the people running saying that if they lose, they won't respect the results. So now, every election, we have to go through this um, voter fraud nonsense. Um, we got people in Arizona that are intimidating um, election drop boxes. People that are going just to put their mail-in ballot in a drop box, and it's people that are guarding these drop boxes that are intimidating people. And when it's a group of senior citizens who made the complaint, and the judge said you haven't provided ample evidence that you're in danger. And I'm just like, anything that is put in place to intimidate or instruct somebody from voting is a violation of federal law. Yet you had a judge that said, nah, they all right. And y'all don't understand is that this is just going to get worse and worse and worse. Y'all hear me talk about the Democrats and some of the things that they don't do, or some of the stupid things they do. But do you hear what I'm saying? Like, they're not trying to oppress a certain race. They're not basically saying, hey, we want those who don't agree with us to feel pain. And I'm not like necessarily talking like physical, like pain or whatever, but they don't want you to feel comfortable living in this country. They want to be able to intimidate you, to harass you, and then go to court and someone tell them that they're within their right because they are superior to you, whether they are or not. Like, this is what we're up against. So this isn't, the Democrats are gonna save us, because they never were. Or when the Republicans were for black people, no political party person or whatever. I'm just saying is a vote for your Democratic congressional candidate in this election just keeps things as normal as they can be. But if Kevin McCarthy or Jim Jordan, either of them or someone else worse, becomes the Speaker of the House, then Donald J. Trump becomes the Speaker of the House. Like, I don't get why people don't understand how dangerous this man or any of his cronies are. Like, he took classified documents that have either gotten people killed or basically them having to retire and watch their back for the rest of their lives because they don't know whether their identity was found out or not. Like, anything that he took that he wasn't supposed to take was bad. But the fact that he took, top secret, like CIA documents and all that kind of stuff. And this isn't like any type of support for the CIA or defense of the CIA or what have you, but what they do is what they've been doing. They're spies. Like, every country has a version of the CIA that work in other countries to gather intelligence, gather secrets, whatever, what have you. All right. But our president shouldn't be exposing names of our spies to other world leaders, and we know that that's been done. Like, and I'm laughing because it's so dangerous how people just want to shoo anything that Trump has done. Like today, I was watching TV, and I think 2 January 6th rioters got 10 years. Now, we know for a fact from all the evidence gathered, whether it was from the Department of Justice or the January 6th Commission, that not only did Trump encourage these people, he helped plan the whole thing. So now, in any other case where someone plans an entire, criminal act, whether he took place or not, when they found out that he had or she had something to do with the planning, don't they get arrested too? Don't they get charged too? But every time I turn around, I keep seeing all these other people, like the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, and QAnon, and all, and those leaders, and they're getting in trouble, but nothing remotely to charging the former president. And once again, we have evidence that he was in on the planning of the whole thing. We also have evidence that his former employee, his former staffer, Cassie Hutchinson, was telling the truth in regards to her testimony about the CIA, when everybody said she was exaggerating and most of what she said was true, but she should have kept the last part to herself or whatever. And now we know that she was telling the God honest truth. And as bad as it sounds, it was the truth. And, I'm not one of these people to give those who come and testify like a pass, but I do give her credit. I mean, she had lawyers, already paid for. She could have just kept going along with what was going on. Nothing likely would have happened to her. She could have just, you know, kind of sort of answered questions or whatever, stuck to her original testimony. But nah, she came back and she told the truth. So for that, I give her and those others who decided that enough was enough or whatever, man. Look, man, party is party, and I get all that, and I get what it takes to switch parties from somebody who's a diehard Democrat or a diehard Republican. Now, I'm not talking independents, because independents are independents because they vote with both sides. That's whatever. But I know how hard it is to go against your people. So I wasn't one of those who just thought, okay, I already know what a liar Trump is, what a bad businessman he is, what a con artist, what a scam artist he is, whatever, from living in the Northeast, living in the New York City area, seeing him basically destroy 2 casinos down in Atlantic City, at least 2. What he said about the now exonerated 5 after the Central Park jogger incident, and so many other different things that he did. The Trump University debacle, where he had to pay up a bunch of money, So I already knew that he wasn't qualified to be president. But at the same time, I wasn't sitting there expecting like Republicans to feel the way I do and say, oh, this is a bridge too far. So when many of them, changed and started supporting him and went along with it or whatever, like, I'm like, this is what they're supposed to do. Like, as bad as he is, he put their party in the White House. And no matter what, that's big for the Republicans. So they felt like, okay, if we could just control them or whatever, we'd be okay. And in some parts they did. They got I think he got 3 Supreme Court justices out of this dude. Like, if he didn't do anything but that, that's a win for the party. That's a win for him, no matter how bad he was from a political standpoint. So I'm bringing all that up to say I get why so many people worked for him. So many people worked at the White House. Working at the White House is working at the White House. Whatever. I get all of that. But when someone is so bad and you see that it's going to have possibly a permanent effect on the country that you live in, and you still decide to go along with someone, when you know someone is lying and he makes you decide to lie, or then you're bad and then he attacks you, and then he gets all of his supporters to, attack you on social media and find out your phone number and call your house and harass you, and sometimes even worse. Um, I say these things to say then, how could anybody fix themselves to vote for people that supports that? Like, you basically, to get his support, you have to say that he won something that he lost. And then he wants total loyalty to you, from you, excuse me. So like I said, if the Republicans win the House of Representatives, like I said, whether it's Kevin McCarthy or Jim Jordan or whoever, that's basically de facto Donald Trump as the Speaker of the House. And all the points I just brought up lets you know why that's so dangerous. Like, this isn't about blue or red. This is about the future of our country. A lot of people listening, they know the country we live in. So they not out here all willy-nilly. And, although they live their life, they don't trust a lot of things. So they're a little bit more diligent. So they're less likely to get caught up in some things. A lot of people that listen to this broadcast are from progressive, diverse areas and don't have to deal with certain things. But for those who don't, and for those who can't just get up and move, and they don't have family in other areas, and they have to deal with, people feeling privileged enough to violate their space or intimidate them, make them feel unwelcome at certain places or in certain parts of town or in certain businesses or whatever. And these things basically go unpunished. All we do when we ignore elections like this, and we stay home, or we don't speak out against the election deniers, we just empower more people like that to act up against people that look like us. And I get it, you're not responsible for every black person and what have you, man, but nah, man, you do have somewhat of a responsibility. And staying home and saying that all this don't have to do with me, but then, complaining when there's a police shooting, but then not saying nothing when there's a gang shooting. And this ain't that Fox News Chicago stuff either. I'm just wondering, damn, how numb, do we have to be to not see, what's going on? We got a party that's so hard up to try to win the Senate and try to win the House that they nominated Herschel Walker, who then ran on a platform. I hope y'all hear that crumbling in the background, my bad. Who then ran on a platform of pro-life, and then a whole starting football team worth of women have come out to say, oh, and he took me to get an abortion, and he forced me to get an abortion, and I got an abortion. That most people, whether Republican, Democrat, man or woman, black, white, whatever, look long enough, you might find something someone said and then something they did that kind of may not jive totally. But when the contradiction is a total 180 and it's done over and over and over and over again, and then people still support them and say, oh, God told us to forgive, so that's what we gonna do. But then somehow you can't forgive Joe Biden for simply just beating Donald Trump. Or you can't forgive Joe Biden because the gas prices are a little higher. I know they're not his fault. But they say it is. So you can't forgive Joe Biden for things like that. But you could forgive this man for asking for your vote and being everything other than what he said he was or is when he asked for your vote. I'll even take it a step further when I talk about how you just can't vote for an election denier or a Trump supporter in any election, in any race all across the country. A lot of Republicans are doing an effective job painting Democrats as not tough on crime, right? And from the last podcast that you listened to, I even talked about the New York bail reform and how it was a lot of holes in it, and we needed to reevaluate that law. So even I have come out to say some things need to change or whatever, right? But how can you run on a party of law and order when you look the other way on January 6th? How can you run on a party of law and order when you think it's okay for anyone to have an AR-15? How can you be the party of law and order when even in a place like New York, where it's just understood, you shouldn't be able to carry, like this ain't the South, like and definitely in places like Times Square, whatever, we don't need a bunch of people with guns or whatever, right? And there are conservatives in this country that got the New York gun law repealed. So you want machine guns pretty much to be legal. You want anybody and everyone to be able to carry a gun no matter where. And somehow that's going to help law enforcement. Now look, I'll admit, bail reform in New York State, New York City, has been a mixed bag. But I'll take that over just making this entire country the Old West any day. And to me, that's just common sense. Like, we're not even talking, what they say, pocketbook and wallet issues or whatever. Like, I'm talking your life. I'm talking, how you transverse your city, your town, how you live. Like, it's literally one party, man. Like, listen to me. They're basically saying, yo, fuck y'all. Like, you do what we say in this country, boy. Like, that's what's going on. Like, I just feel like people know what's good, but don't want to believe that their country is this bad. Like, look at all the stuff all like the consumer goods and different items like avocados and different stuff like that we have problems with once we started having issues at the border. But now y'all gonna sit here and then y'all want to believe that everybody working on these different farms and stuff that get us our food are legal. Like, look, I'm not trying to like point out something bad to justify something else as bad. But what I'm saying is, um, we can't have a country in which our, I guess, our prosperity and whether we're successful is whether certain people are allowed in this country to work certain jobs or whatever, but then turn around and then say that they tough on immigration, and then President Joe Biden needs to do a better job at the border. Like, do you get the contradictions or what have you? You know, like with all the supply line problems and all the different items that the price went up or they weren't on the shelves and we couldn't get these items to grocery store, excuse me, and all that kind of stuff. It all went back to a migrant, a lack of migrant workers. You had some cases where some ranchers even held their migrants as slaves because they knew that they could go somewhere and possibly make more money or whatever, and then possibly not come back and help him and help their company, get their stuff out. It is so many different layers, man, to like immigration, um, inflation, and the price at the pump, the price at the cashier, or what have you. That has nothing to do with the president, has nothing to do with anyone in Congress or what have you. But Americans are so fickle, man, that it's like as soon as they feel like their life is not good, then it's like, well, vote out the closest politician to me. So let me lash out at the fact that I don't like my life right now, and it's someone else's fault. So let me vote them out of office without even thinking about what the person that you may be voting in is about. But in this case, everybody that's running is letting you know what they are about. And I just see so many different polls, and I understand polls aren't always correct, that just have like all these election denier conspiracy theorists that are going to be running states as governors, as secretary of states, which mean they become in charge of elections. Like, what is wrong with us? Look, man, it's people in every race that don't like integration. You know what I'm saying? So this isn't like, oh, we need white people to stop being racist. We need this. What I'm saying is this. Sometimes it just becomes a time where you just have to say, look, as much as I don't like them motherfuckers over there, like, I don't want this country going in the direction that it's going. I'm not going to be around. I have children. I don't want them living I don't want to play a part in leaving them in a country like that. Or my grandchildren, or what have you. Like, it's so many things you could point out that Democrats could be strong on. Like, so many things. You know what I'm saying? It's so many things where you could say, hey, regardless of obstruction, you still have all three houses. But yeah, with a small majority, and for many of you listening, I had to talk to one of my brothers the other day about this fact that a lot of things, um, especially that have to pass the Senate, need 60 votes and not just the 51 majority. So that means you need your 50 plus 10 from the other side just to get a lot of things through. And in this climate, that's just not possible. There's always been a divisiveness about government. And for the most part, it helped keep balance. But now it's so tribal because one side has made it so tribal and so dangerous and so radical that yes, now I'm telling whoever listening, um, vote for your Democratic congressional candidate in your district because um, if you think your quality of life is bad now, it's going to be worse tenfold. And that don't necessarily mean you're going to lose your job, you're not going to make any money, you're not going to be financially successful. But, all right, imagine being financially successful and, so much that you're able to buy a house, you find a good realtor, they find you a local house, really doesn't need any work, in a nice neighborhood, what have you. You move in, and 2 weeks later, all of a sudden, you start getting neighbors that start messing with you. Talking about your grass, and nitpicking. Oh, we keep our yards manicured on this block, and we don't have a lot of loud music and whatever. It starts just letting you know that they're gonna be all in your business or whatever. And then when you call the police, they basically, come, but almost let you know that what these people are doing is all right with them, and you better take heed. Like, those are the type of things that I'm talking about. And look, we already have systemic as well as systematic racism all throughout, like, just everywhere throughout our being as a country. But for it to be at a level of boldness that goes back to like the 50s, the 60s, and some parts of the 70s, like, these were battles that were fought and were supposed to have been won. And it's a shame that we're even talking and revisiting them. But that's what this election is about. So it's not just about, red and blue and, oh man, when neither one of them do anything for me. Shut the fuck up. And the reason I'm a little angry, man, because people pretend that they don't have time to find out what's going on or whatever, but then they know everything about nothing. They know every quote that somebody said on a podcast, and I'm laughing because I'm on a podcast. But you know what I mean, man. Like, they know all the gossip. Got time to binge watch shows. But don't got time to pick up a paper or something to find out what's going on. I know I said I was going to talk about that dude, man, but I just think that voting and looking out for each other at the polls as well is just way more important than talking about a billionaire right now. We're going to talk about Mr. West. We're going to talk about Alex Jones' record judgment against him for being an ass. Um, we're going to talk about Nancy Pelosi's husband being attacked on our next broadcast. But this one is about voting, 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 voting. If there's a election denier running in your district, you need to be voting for the other person. Point blank, period. Let's stop playing with this, people. All right, man, that's my time. Be sure to support the entire network, Ian Friends, Life and Love, the Black Male Podcast, as well as the Encourage and Inspire Podcast. You are now listening to Politricked. I am your host, Sky. That is my time. I'm out. Peace.